So what's your point today?
Well, Crystal actually talked yesterday about a Wall Street Journal article in which corporate bosses vented their frustrations about workers. You can see that up on the screen. Now, the New Yorker, they published a much better take on so-called quiet quitting. That was courtesy of Cal Newport, who wrote that the trend is, quote, the first step of a younger generation taking their turn in developing a more nuanced understanding of the role of work in their lives. These two positions from the Journal and the New Yorker are actually entirely related. And I actually don't doubt, let's say some fraction of the workforce is actually getting lazier. Can you blame people, though? American work culture has absolutely created immense prosperity. That doesn't mean it's perfect. Plus, when the labor market benefits workers and inflation is high, obviously people are going to demand more, especially when they know they can get a job that perhaps involves working from home with a flexible schedule. And hey, technology is making some folks very rich. Technology that is making some folks very rich is sapping others of their will to live, let alone to work. One 26-year-old British man told Common Sense last year, quote, the lowest possible quality of life you can have with the internet is still kind of tolerable. It's not absolutely awful. You can sort of exist in that. And there's nothing to give you a kick up the butt because it's not the worst thing. All right, so the labor force participation rate among working age men has dropped a lot. It's gone from about 94% in 1948 to 84% in 2015, with most of the drop actually happening since that period in the mid-60s. Women's labor force participation rate, meanwhile, has actually doubled over that same time period. As Nicholas Eberstadt told the Fifth Column this fall, quote, for every 25 to 55-year-old guy who is out of work and looking for a job in 2022, there are 4 guys who are neither working nor looking for work. But we needn't go too far down that particular rabbit hole. Are people really getting lazier? And if so, is that even morally wrong or logically irrational? As Helen Mirren said on this week's great episode of 1923, what could humans possibly do with all of the leisure time new inventions like the washing machine and refrigerator have given us in the last century? Well, let's check back in with Cal Newport over at The New Yorker. It's hard to find references to the phrase, follow your passion in the context of career advice until the 1990s, at which point the adage explodes into common usage, Newport wrote. This passion-centric perspective attempted to thread the needle between the extremes that the boomers had experienced. Get a job, they told their kids, but make it one you love. Seek self-actualization, but also care about making your mortgage payments. Newport added, quote, before we heap disdain on Gen Z's travails, we should remember that we were all once in this same position. For me and my fellow millennials, Newport wrote, it wasn't that long ago that our own parents shook their heads at our confident plans to run an automated business from a laptop in Tulum. Now, I didn't plan that while Sagar was in Tulum, but I kind of think it's funny that that's where he is right now. There's a lot of debate over the relationship between wages and productivity over time. Jason Furman and the folks over at AEI say it's not a big deal, and that, quote, greater productivity growth holds the potential of being the most powerful source of sustained wage growth across the income spectrum. Productivity inputs, though, are getting harder to measure as the common 8-hour workday with that hour lunch break fades away. Hourly workers are not immune from this. If a boss sends a text message or an email at any time, pretty much everyone is expected to respond. You could be at a pool party, you could be at the gym, but your phone is always there, and that means there's always a possibility of a dramatic request or a minor request, but it's work-related nonetheless. And that is no small thing. It's not a matter of checking your phone for 3 seconds and just shooting off a quick reply. It is the psychic toll of never ever disconnecting. And that's not whining, it's a very real thing. For people with Zoom jobs, the luxury of flexible schedules means monitoring email and doing little bits of work here and there when you're with your family or just trying to decompress at the end of the day. Screen time is bad for our health, we know that, and jobs require more and more screen time in formal work hours, 9 to 5, and outside of them. It's almost impossible to add up all the little seconds here and there people spend working when they're not technically working. So yeah, some people might throw in the towel and others might get a little mad. Plus, Americans are working more hours, more weeks, and even small things like lunch breaks are declining. We have the data on all of that. To my conservative friends, it's worth saying we don't necessarily need new regulations so much as we need fair interpretations of labor laws, defensible labor laws that are already on the books. Not many people paid attention to it, but in the fall, the NLRB issued a memo that announced an investigation into, quote, unlawful electronic surveillance and automated management practices. As the NLRB said, quote, under settled board law, numerous practices employers may engage in using new surveillance and management technologies are already unlawful. The board pointed to several provisions in the FDR-era NLRA, National Labor Relations Act, that are potentially being violated. And crucially, they wrote, electronic monitoring and automated management are not always limited to working time. After the workday ends, some employers continue to track employees' whereabouts and communications using employer-issued phones or wearable devices or apps installed on workers' own devices, read the memo. And even before they continued the employment relationship begins, some employers pry into job applicants' private lives by conducting personality tests and scrutinizing applicants' social media accounts. This means work is now absolutely everywhere in a way that it never has been before. It's an incredible blending of the private and personal, just as Newport suggested Gen Z is experiencing. Of course, that's going to change employees. Of course, it's going to change everything. And it renders employees' problems reasonable in a way that many employers are not yet willing to accept.
Hey guys, ready or not, 2024 is fully upon us now, and Sagar and I have been brainstorming ways that we can really up our game for this critical election.
Yeah, we rely on our premium subs to expand our coverage, to add staff, to upgrade the studio. We just want to give you the best independent coverage of this election, which is possible. So if you can help us out, become a premium subscriber today, breakingpoints.com, or the link is down here in the description video. It really means the world to us, and if you like what we're all about, this is the best possible way to keep us 100% independent, working only for you.